Hi everyone. Let's discuss on the important topic. That's the requirement traceability matrix. If you want to track your requirement from the requirement analysis, requirement gathering, or the design, development, testing, production deployment, all these pages are followed by your requirement from one stage to another state. You track that thing. So there is the matrix which help you for to track that things which we call the requirement traceability matrix, and most of the interviewer will ask you the question on the basis of requirement traceability matrix. It's a very important matrix in the IT projects or any kind of projects. Okay, so please understand it very well. I'll explain you in detail, cover all the topics related to the requirement traceability matrix, how it will be prepared, what is a horizontal requirement traceability matrix, what is a vertical requirement traceability matrix. All these things I'll cover in that matrix. So please listen. Let's move on the next slide. So agenda for that presentation is introduction you to requirement. What is a requirement traceability matrix? RTM deep dive definition and the purpose of the requirement traceability matrix. I'll explain you the key benefits of requirement traceability matrix, then the RTM key components and the columns we should have in RTM. So I'll give you the one of example of the RTM, then the best practices for preparation of RTM, then lastly we discuss on the question and answer. So guys, let's discuss on in detail deep dive into the RTM, which we stand for, which we call the requirement traceability matrix. So introduction, the pillar of requirement management. So let's discuss on what is a requirement traceability matrix, what is an RTM. Okay, let's it is a document that systematically map trace user requirement throughout the project life cycle. So all the user requirements we should prepare, the Excel document where we write down the requirements, and we in the columns the requirement, and then each phases of that requirement, like the requirement gathering, requirement analysis, design, development, testing, deployment, or feedback, all these things. And we will make sure that all the requirements, there is a thousands of requirements, so all these requirements are cover all these phases, and finally they are deployed in the production environment. So that's the requirement traceability matrix, a document that systematically map, trace, and the requirement throughout the project lifecycle. It ensures that every requirement is accountable for link to relevant the project artifacts. Okay, why it is a crucial, why it is a important of requirement traceability matrix? It ensure the comprehensive coverage of requirement. Okay, it facilitate the impact analysis for the changes, it provide the clear documentation on audit trials. We should find where the stage of that requirement and improve the overall project uh, quality and reduce the risks. There is a risk, we should eliminate the risks at any stage of the SDLC. In the requirement gathering, requirement analysis, design, we miss the requirement to do the requirement development, testing. So that should be tracked by the requirement traceability matrix, and it is prepared by the business analyst. The owner of requirement traceability matrix is a business analyst. Okay, the requirement traceability matrix definition and the purpose. Let's discuss on the definition of requirement traceability matrix. A document that link the requirement to other work project such as design specification, development, model. Most important, the test cases. It should be a form of test cases, and all the test cases are covered. We test all the test cases. We are how the test cases output has the end user wants, so that should be covered in the requirement traceability matrix. The purpose of the requirement traceability matrix should be a verify coverage, trace, track status, aid impact analysis, and maintain consistency. So to ensure that all the stated requirements are addressed and covered by corresponding test cases, so that should be a there, that all the test cases are covered. Track the status to monitor the status of requirement from inception through the development and the testing So the if someone the project manager wants status of any requirement, then the business analyst should simply open the requirement traceability matrix and check what are the state of that requirement. So that's the important, and maintain the consistency to ensure the alignment between requirement design, development, and testing. So that's the important of requirement traceability matrix. So we maintain the consistency of each the requirement. Let's move on the next slide. RTM benefits. It covers the complete assurance, effective impact analysis, then the transparent progress tracking, enhance the risk mitigation and compliance and audit support. It's support for that things. Okay, let's discuss each one by one. Complete coverage assurance. It guarantee that every single requirement has at least one corresponding to test cases, providing gap in testing. It should make ensure that all the requirements should go into the production environment. Efficient impact analysis allow for rapid identification of all the affected test cases, design element, and code with when requirement is modified or removed. So that should be there. Transparent progress tracking provide a clear overview of the testing status of requirement, non-tested, in progress, pass, failed, block. That are the status of the requirement. That should give the clear understanding for that in the testing stages. Then the enhance the risk mitigation helps in proactively identifying untested or inadequate test cases, therefore reducing the potential project risks and defects. So that's the help by the requirement traceability matrix. Compliance and audit support of offers a clear and documented audit trail which are essential for regulatory compliance and audit quality audience audits. So that's we can audit where the requirement, we check what are the stage of that requirement. Let's the key components of RTM, what the things should have in ideal requirement traceability matrix. It may be import changes by your requirement or your organization to organization, but these key components should must have in your RTM. So requirement ID, each the requirement has unique identifier assigned to each specific requirements. So there is the requirement ID. It should 01, 02, 02, 03, like RTM1 for the RTM 1.01. So that's ID should have is the requirement. Requirement description, a detailed and homogeneous explanation of what the requirement entitle. So that entire description. So how that requirement should like the requirement system should the verify that the system should display the login screen, verify that the system should allow user to log in with the email ID to enter their OTP, verify that after login entering the login credentials, and user will click on the login button. After the login credential is correct, then system will display the home page of that user. So that's the detailed description of each the test cases. Then the test case ID, okay, unique identifier of the test cases that design and verify the specific requirement. Then the test case description, detailed description of test case or a short summary or title of the linked test cases for the quick reference, so the verifier or the validator can understand that test cases. Then the test case status, the current execution status of the linked test cases. It is a not started, it is in progress, it is in pass, fail, block. That should be updated by the tester or the quality assurance team. The test case execution date, on which date we test that functionality or the features in the system. So the date when the link test case where the l- last executed. Okay, and the defect ID optional. ID of any defect or bug that were discovered during the testing of the particular requirement. We should identify that ID. And the model failure, to specify the software model or function feature to which the requirement is belongs. If suppose there is an API related testing, or suppose we have the some models that will be failed that belongs to that test cases, so that should be there in the test case document. let's move on the ideal example of the template of the RTM. So there is a requirement and ID, requirement description, test case IDs, test case status, and the defect IDs. So that's covered in the RTM. So the developer will go in the bug trail and identify their defect, and that system will get failure. So best practice for preparation of RTM. So early start preparation of RTM. When you are gathering the requirement, then you can start to prepare the RTM. Begin with creating and populating the RTM as soon as the requirement are stable and approved. Once the requirement is approved and stable and fixed, then we will start to preparation of uh, preparation of RTM. Keep it update. If there is a change in the requirement, if there is a some change and enhancement in the requirement, if we prioritize the requirement, that should be updated in the RTM is a living document, regularly updated as a requirement involved, design changes and the testing result are available, clear and concise, maintain a clear, ambiguous and atomic requirement to facilitate the accurate traceability. It should be tracked. It should be updated when the status of that requirement is changed. So that should be there. Then the leverage tools utilize the dedicated requirement management and test management tools, Jira, Azure development test rail to manage the RTM effectively. That are the tool which is used by to do the requirement traceability matrix, to regulatory review and validation. Periodically review the RTM with stakeholder like business analyst, quality team, developer to ensure that accuracy and completeness of the requirement and the state or the stage of the requirement. So we continuously review or we discuss on the separate meeting related to the requirement traceability matrix. So we are all are on the same page related to that requirement. The version control to control the the update the versions, implement a robust version control for the RTM to track changes and maintain the historical records of that requirement. So we know when we are changes the requirement and why we are changes the requirement, what we made the change the requirement, how we made that change the requirement. That should be there in the version control of the requirements. And then last one is the conclusion. The requirement traceability matrix is a indispensable tool in a software development. It is the most important and daily usable tool by business analyst, development team, testing team. It should be there. It provides a visibility, control, and accountability over time entire requirement life cycle. It contains the detailed things in that requirement. Okay, we ensure that every requirement is covered and validate and verify. That should be verified by the requirement traceability matrix. The RTM significantly contribute to deliver a high quality software to meet the user needs, to meet the business needs. They can, once the release get deployed in the production environment, there is all the requirements are contained in that requirement, that we verify that is there is the all the requirement contained in that release from the help of the requirement traceability matrix. And it embraces RTM has a core practice for effective project management and quality assurance. It assure that quality of the release, quality of the product or the functions, and what we are going to deliver, that cover in the requirement traceability matrix in details. So that's the end of the session. Thank you so much, student, for attending the sessions. If you have any open point, if you want some, clarification on RTM, so please comment on my sessions, and I'll be there to help you. And I'm very happy to help you to grow. Please grow your life to upgrade yourself. So that's, and if possible, please subscribe my channel. That motivate me to create more videos on such topic, so that will increase your knowledge and my knowledge also. Thanks for attending the session.